Time and time again, I'm always asked by my students, by prospects, anybody who's reaching out to me for help, YouTube comments, my solos sound boring. How do I spice them up? What is it missing? What is the secret sauce or the secret code? And the reality is, there is no real secret sauce or there is no real secret code or secret blah 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 into playing guitar. But there are a lot of things that you probably are missing that we can talk about today. So I came up with a list of the 5 most common ways that you can spice up your solos. So we'll talk about why your solos are probably pretty boring and what you can do to spice them up. So let's get right into the video. So some of the most common problems that come up from my students or anybody in general who I'm first starting to work with when they're talking about soloing is they keep telling me that their solos are really boring and dull, and we start going over number 5, which is your scales. Okay, so when it comes to scales, all these people that say that their solos sound boring or dull or whatever, 90% of the time they're using the same scale that every guitar player uses. Or if they want to get fancy, right? That's a huge problem, okay? Because if every guitar player is using the same scale, which they are, you're going to fall into the same category as the rest of these guitar players, and we do not want that at all. So my first piece of advice for you as number 5, I want you to start learning some new scales and find the ones that you like that are unique to you and use that as your signature sound. So Yngwie Malmsteen talks about this a lot. He uses Phrygian dominant scale a lot, right? We all know that, or most of us at least know that. If you didn't, well, there you go. That's his signature tone. That's his signature sound. For me, I like to use harmonic minor in its root position a lot. I also like to use Locrian in the harmonic minor mode a lot as well. Those are 2 of the ones that I usually use, and there's a couple of other things that we'll talk about. But first thing, learn some new scales and start applying them into your playing. Which is going to bring me into number 4. You don't have a good enough grasp on music theory to come up with anything cool or melodic. I know this might be something that hurts a lot of feelings. This might be something where you're like, well, Aiden, I don't know music theory, but I come up with everything that's so big and blah, blah, blah. Dude, it's 2026. You have to stop avoiding the obvious. Every guitar player who has been great has known music theory of some form or fashion. There may be a couple of exceptions to the rule, but you are not going to be that exception. Put in the work, put in the time, put in the effort. It will pay off because you're going to know what's going on in the backing track. You're going to know, how do I pick the right scales out, pick the right arpeggios out? What are the chords that are happening, right? How can I use chord tones versus non-chord tones? All of these things you have to take into account when you play. You can't just wing it for the rest of your life. So start learning some music theory, at least get music theory level 1 down. I just made a video about the music theory level 1, aka the circle of fifths, so you should go check it out. My next point is going to be number 3, which is not diversifying your technique with the tempo. So I'll explain exactly what this means here in just a moment. But before we keep going, I just want you to let you know, if you like this style of teaching, if you like my style of playing and you want to adapt that, if you want to learn directly from me, my masterclass is open, looking for really awesome students. So click on the link below. My masterclass is basically for guitar players who want to be able to shred on that professional level. We use classical concepts with things like music theory on and off the fretboard. We use heavy technique, all that really good stuff. You get a full curriculum, hours upon hours of content, free ebooks, and you also get 4 live Zoom calls a week that you can work with me directly on and an awesome community. So click the link below, you'll book a free call, and we'll talk and we'll make sure that's right for you. So number 3, being that we're talking about adapting the right tempo with your technique. So that basically means this. If you're struggling with alternate picking, for example, if you're doing something like alternate picking, you need to make sure your pick slanting is really, really clean. So that way you can hit a sextuplet, which is a group of 6, right? You need to make sure that you can hit just a regular 16 note, which is a group of 4. So an example of the group of 6 is something like this exercise. You really want to make sure that you can adapt and hit those tempo markings. So you got to start using your metronome. Same thing with maybe a group of 4. Right? That's what you want to do. So lock in your tempo, go through groups of 2, 4, 6, and 3. Those are the ones that you're going to want to use the most because those tend to be the easiest, okay? Make sure you get really locked in on your alternate picking, and then you need to get locked in on your sweep picking, and you need to understand how do you adapt sweep picking in with a tempo. So are you doing it to land on something? Or are you doing it to fit in an entire arpeggio? Right? We need to know the proper rhythmic division between these arpeggios. So you got to work on that and figure that out, okay? Number 2, I want you to really make sure you understand the next section that we're kind of talking about here, which is you got to get your arpeggios down, okay? So here's the thing. A lot of guitar players make this mistake where they just learn how to do scales and they've never learned how to do arpeggios. That is a huge, huge problem, okay? I used to be like this myself, by the way. So the first thing that you can do to kind of figure this out, number 1, just make sure you know at least a little bit of theory, like what a triad is and diatonic triads, stuff like that. A little bit of circle of fifths action. I have videos on my channel if you want to look through those. So with arpeggios, okay, I recommend you learn tonic, which is the 1 chord in minor keys, and then dominant, okay? So luckily for you, I have videos that already are about this. Click in the description below. It basically talks about how you can use tension, so things like the dominant chord, and then resolve it. Tension, resolution. Just like that, okay? So you need to master this tension and release. It is universal in all kinds of music, in melody making, in chord structure. Tension and release, tonic and dominant is the most important thing, okay? Then after that, you can start learning the other chord tones, but that is going to be an awesome start. So the last and final point that we're going to talk about is possibly the most important, okay? You need to take time to learn how to actually compose and write melodies that make sense, melodies that stay in people's head, etc., etc., okay? One of the valuable things that I learned when I did go to music school, out of the many things that were not valuable at all, was how to write really good, memorable melodies, okay? This is, things like hooks, things like themes, if you want to call it, licks, riffs, whatever you want to call it. You got to learn how to write melodies that stay in people's head. So you need to understand how song form works. You need to understand how A theme versus B theme versus C theme, different song structures will help you do that. So it's almost like I want you to take a minute. Honestly, might help to put down the guitar and work on a keyboard or something like that, or maybe go on your DAW and learn how to write some really killer melodies that are going to stick in people's head. Transfer that onto the guitar, because the best guitar players were not just fast players, and the best guitar players were not just slow players. They were ones that could do both and write really memorable melodies, okay? So if you do those 5 things, I guarantee you, you're going to see really, really good results. And if you have any questions, just drop a comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts on everything. If you need help, book a call with me, just like I said earlier, for my masterclass. It is the best freaking thing ever. So I'll see you guys in the next video.